For making a wiring diagram, there are a few different methods that you can use. Probably the first method that I would recommend is to use a program called Fritzing. So you can search for that, Fritzing. And this first one is most likely going to be what you're looking for. You're going to want to go to the downloads, and this costs money. It's $12, and you can pay and download here. I will also provide installation files for you, for those of you in our program. So once you have that installed, go ahead and open it up on your computer. Then you're going to click up here on breadboard, and it defaults to one of these larger breadboards. So I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to click delete. And then in the parts section, I'm going to just click on this little search, and I'm going to type in breadboard. And we want the mini breadboard. I take that back. We want the half breadboard. So I changed it actually to half plus, so it looks more like the breadboards that you have. So there's our starting point. Now that we have the breadboard, let's add in our Arduino Uno. So up here in the parts search again, I'm going to type in Arduino Uno. And we could just use a typical Arduino Uno, which looks like so. If you really want to use the Seed Studio Arduino Uno, come down here to Seed, and we're going to choose Seeduino. So I'm going to get rid of that one. I'm going to pull in the Seed Studio. All right. So then when it comes to making some connections, we know that the first most important connections that we generally make are the VIN and the ground from the Arduino to the breadboard. Now, to make this more consistent with the wiring diagrams that you've seen in our course, I'm just going to switch which side these are on. All right. So to do a connection, all you have to do is just click on one of the pinholes. So I'm going to click on VIN, and I'm going to bring it over here to the red line, because that's what we use for power. And then because I don't want to cover up all of these other pinholes, I'm just going to click somewhere on this wire, and I'm going to drag it down. And I'll also do that over here. All right. Now, generally with power wires, we make them red. So I will right click on the wire, and I will go to wire color and choose red. And then I will do the same process for the ground. So I'll click on one of the ground pinholes, and I'll bring it over here to this other row that we're going to use for ground. And same as before, I'm going to move it so that we're not overlapping anything else, like so. And I'm going to right click and go to wire color. And you generally, for ground, we use either blue or black. Doesn't really make a difference. Just try to stay consistent. So if you choose blue for ground, use blue for all of the grounds, and as well as with black. It's your choice. Now, to add some sensors, something that you'll need to most likely do is first download the library of Fritzing objects for your particular sensors. So we're using Adafruit sensors. So the easiest way to find this is go to Adafruit, to their website, adafruit.com. And then you can just choose one of the sensors that you have in your build. So pretty much all of our builds have a real-time clock, specifically the PCF 8523 real-time clock. So this is the one right here that we're using. And this is just a little reminder that pretty much every Adafruit sensor has a pretty detailed guide to it, usually down towards the bottom of the page where you would purchase it. So right here it says check out our detailed guide for code, library, schematics, fritzing object, and more. So you could either click on that or you could click here, this learn. This will bring you to the same place. So on the guide, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the download section. And right here we have fritzing object and Adafruit fritzing library. Really, we want the whole library, and that's what they're going to give you. So it brings you to a GitHub page. And if we scroll down here, we've got some information about it. To actually download it, we're going to click this code button. We're going to click download zip. You can see I've actually downloaded this a bunch of times already, but fritzing library master is what it will be called. So I'm going to click this little folder to open it, and then I'm going to extract it. So I'll right click, I'll click extract all, click extract, wait for it to finish extracting. And so now I have this fritzing library master here, this folder. It's in my downloads folder. It might be elsewhere for you, depends wherever you saved it to or downloaded it to. All right, so now if I go back to fritzing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, over in this parts section, there's a little drop down right here. Might be a little hard to see. It's right next to the search bar. I'm going to click on import. Then I am going to navigate to where I just saved that fritzing library master folder. I'm going to click on that, click on it a couple times. And then when we get here, we're going to go to parts. And these are pretty much all of the Adafruit sensors. I'm pretty sure they've got every single one in here. I've never ran into a situation where I wasn't able to find what I was looking for. So maybe what you might want to do is search PCF 8523. And we're going to go with this Stemma QT one because that's the one that we have in our CubeSat kit. So I will click open. And then in the my parts section, or mine right here, that's where it will save it to. So I just click on that and I drag it over and I can place it wherever I want. Now for the specific build that you're working on, it's going to be down here, but it's going to be in a different orientation. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to rotate 180 degrees. Whoops. And then I'm going to drag it to where it makes sense based on that wiring diagram. Now, keep in mind that this is automatically snapping to a grid, and it doesn't look like it's really lining up with the holes correctly. So if I go to view, I believe, yep, and it says here's an option, align to grid is on, it's checked on. So I'll uncheck that. Now I can place this anywhere, and you'll notice that when you highlight over pinholes that it changes the color. See? So I'm going to put it just about right there where it makes sense. And it actually shows me which rows are lined up with those pinholes. Let's do the very bottom line of holes right there. And then I can go ahead and I can connect things as necessary. So for instance, I want ground. So any of these pinholes can be used for ground. So I'll pull from there. And then I also want power or VIN. Pull from there. And I'm going to change power, oops, wire color to red. And if you want to adjust these so that you don't have overlap, you can just grab and pull over something like that, whatever works for you. So you could go through and you can put all of your various sensors in there. So, for instance, we have the micro SD reader. So if I go back to that library folder, go to parts, and what happens if we type in SD? And there it is, Adafruit SPI Flash SD card. Oh, nope, that was not the correct one. So I'll drag that over. Let's try the other SD card. That looks better. Now, this one might be slightly different from what you have in your pictures or in your kit. So let me show you another thing that you can do. So you may run into a situation where you just can't find what you're looking for. One last thing that I'll do is I'll just search overall throughout all of the Fritzing libraries. Let's do SD there. There's a lot of different things here. None of them are particularly looking like... Yeah, that's similar, but that's not exactly what I want. So because of that, I'm going to delete that. You could either search the internet for, specific parts that you're looking for, like maybe Adafruit SD card breakout. So this is the one we're actually looking for. Maybe if I go into here, download. So this brings me back to that original Fritzing library. So maybe it's just hidden in there somewhere. Let's see if we can find it. Let's go back to Fritzing. Let's go back to import. Downloads, Fritzing library master. What's this one right here? Micro SD card BFF. Nope, that's still not the one. What happens if I do card? That one we have. Ah, there it is. Because when I typed in SD before, it probably didn't read it because this is actually called micro SD. So yeah, that's the one. So let's rotate 90 degrees. And that one goes like right around here. Zoom out a little bit. All right, so what if you run into a situation where you just can't find a Fritzing object for a sensor that you're working on? I mean, that shouldn't be the case with these particular CubeSats because we verified already that all of those parts exist in Fritzing. As a matter of fact, all the wiring diagrams that you've looked at throughout the course and on the online course materials, I created those wiring diagrams using this program. But I have run into situations where there were other sensors I was using, maybe not from Adafruit, that just I could not find Fritzing objects for. You can work around this by just copying this image and pasting it into another graphic design program like Microsoft Paint, for instance. So if I hit the Windows key Shift and S, that'll allow me to take a screenshot on a Windows computer at least. And I'm going to just choose this right here. So now that's saved to my clipboard. So if I open up Paint and I hit Control V to paste it, now we've got it in here. And Now I can search for a picture of the sensor that I'm looking for. Would be a good example. Maybe the micro radiation click. So radiation sensor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that so I get just the image. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to hit Windows key, Shift S. I'm going to take a screenshot of just the sensor. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to paste it in there. And then I will adjust the size to make it fit on my picture. Now, this one I probably wouldn't wind up actually plugging into the breadboard. So maybe I will put it down here somewhere. Make it a little bit bigger. You know, this doesn't have to be perfectly to scale. Don't worry if, you know, some of the sensors are not the actual size. Oops. Try that again. All right, and then to make the wires, I could just use the line tool. So here's the 5-volt right here. And then I will do my ground wire. This is blue. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. All right, and so there, that's hooked up at least the power and the ground. As far as the actual wires that plug into the Arduino, I'm not going to go into too much detail with this particular sensor, but I've actually been working on trying to get this to work with the Arduino Uno, and almost there, but not quite there yet. So I'm not going to get too much into the weeds there. But this is a method that you could use, which uses both fritzing and just any simple graphic design tool like Paint. Now, say you don't want to spend the money on fritzing. You can just completely use Paint, and you could essentially do the same process, right? So maybe the first thing I would look for is a picture of a breadboard. And I would want to use one that you know, is like a top-down look at it. So like this one right here looks pretty good. So I will Windows Shift S. I will choose that right there. Let's make a new drawing here. Paste that. Then I will go find my Cduino. Oh, that looks pretty good. And I think maybe make this a little bit bigger. There we go. And that's the general process. So you could find pictures of your sensors. You could wire it all up using the line tools. If you can't find pictures, I mean, again, this does not have to be perfect. So you could just, you know, put in placeholders. So maybe I'll use the rectangle tool, and I will just, you know, make a rectangle of the sensor that I want. Would ideally like this to be filled in. There we go. And then what I'll do is maybe, you know, if I'm going to take the time to do this, I can, well, maybe not use that, not that tool. Where's the brush tool? Or actually, probably the best thing to do would be to use little circles for the pinholes. And you can get as detailed as you want with this. Right, so I can make pinholes. And, take your time, do it as neatly as you want. And then I can just label this. Whoops, what happened there? Micro SD. And then I would draw lines to connect my pinholes to my Arduino. So this could be as high tech or as low tech as you want. Also, you could just do all this by hand. You just draw a picture on a piece of paper and take a photo of it and send that in. So these are a couple of different options that you can take in order to make your wiring diagram. You could spend as much time or as little time as you want on this. Just all it needs to show is various wired connections between the sensors and the Arduino microcontroller.